Welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show. I'm your host, Vincent A. Lanci.
Hi, everyone. This is Kaley Chu here.
For this episode, the show goes international once again to interview a TED Talk speaker with an incredible story of overcoming her biggest fear, which resulted in a wonderful success. Whether you are looking to start or scale your business, this is the show for you. Each week, I interview a different entrepreneur from across the globe. I will continue to offer episodes in all industries to provide you with many different perspectives. You never know which motivational journey will inspire you most. Each guest will take you through their story and help you learn from their successes and lessons learned. This week's guest used to suffer from crippling shyness until one day it was so bad she froze when a client asked her a question in front of her boss. She was humiliated, so she decided something had to change. Her solution? Have lunch with 100 strangers. What came next completely changed her life. Since that painful day, as she described, she has published a book, and as I previewed, she gave a TED Talk about her journey. Now she speaks all over Australia to motivate others to step outside their comfort zone, connect with people, and live a more fulfilling life. I am excited to learn more about this journey, so allow me to now introduce Kaley Chu. Kaley, thank you for joining the show.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Would you mind please previewing your story and introducing yourself to our listeners before we dive in and get going without sharing too much of your entrepreneurial path?
I think you've done a great job in introducing me. So I'm that crazy girl who have lunch with strangers every day.
I saw it come up on social media for a little bit, and then we started connecting with each other's content. So I think everybody will have a lot of learning lessons from where you came. As I mentioned in the preview, a great example of stepping outside of your comfort zone, your biggest fear, you now turned into your career.
Absolutely. I remember not long ago, in fact, only 2.5, 3 years ago, that's when I started the challenge of 100 lunches with strangers. At that time, I couldn't even talk to one person. Yeah, that's bizarre. I mean, more specifically, because I'm an immigrant from Hong Kong living in Australia, I couldn't talk to anyone who's non-Asian. I'm not racist, don't get me wrong. It's just somehow my comfort zone or just not confident to talk to anyone that looks different to me. Now speaking to my career and I'm here talking to you.
I'm excited to learn much more about this journey. So thank you for the courage to step outside that comfort zone because of all the good you're now doing over in Australia. But I think it is now a great time to get into the big five. On each episode, my guest and I go over these 5 questions to help you, the listeners, learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. You ready to go, Kaley?
Absolutely.
So you may have previewed it a bit, but let's find out that real moment when you realized you weren't happy with what you were doing and you finally wanted to make that change to start your entrepreneurial career path.
It's a long story. I mean, I wasn't too unhappy. My life was okay. I was married. I've got a good job. I've got 2 kids. But then, as you mentioned earlier, when I got a new job, I need to talk to my clients. I couldn't say a single word during an entire 2 hours meeting. That was the day that I decided I had to do something. I had to, have lunch. I didn't say I have to have lunch with strangers, but I had to do something so that I can talk to people, so that I won't, have a problem. Because if you can't talk to people, it's really not a good life. I mean, you can't have a good career. You can't be a good example for your kids. So I decided to have lunch with strangers at that time. But I can't consider myself as an entrepreneur at that time because I was just doing a personal challenge for myself. How I started my business was after my 100 lunches journey. I got so much to share that I accidentally wrote a book. True story. I didn't plan to write a book. I accidentally wrote one, and then people started to invite me to speak and share my stories, and that's how I became a corporate speaker and sharing my stories, on stages.
It's very interesting. Who was your 100th lunch? Let's talk about that 100th lunch.
My 100th lunch was a really interesting lunch because he is a very successful business person. He is a chairman of a listed company. And then when I went to have lunch with him, I took a notepad with me, hoping that I'm going to get lots of business tips from him. But then turned out that he had a huge fight with his girlfriend the day before. And instead of me getting business tips from him, he was asking me for relationship advice and he was taking notes on the day. And then we stayed as friends, and it was just really interesting because I learned so much from people and understand people, learning different perspectives and things. And yeah, just a very interesting journey.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. I know our listeners would be intrigued by that question, but since you've been on your own here, Kaley, what are two of the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur for you?
Um, so many. Like since I become a public speaker, my journey hasn't stopped from there. I feel like I started this 100 lunches movement. If you Google 100 lunches or just go on LinkedIn or anywhere, search hashtag 100 lunches, you'll find that a lot of other people doing 100 lunches as well, not just me. Because of my speaking, and I encourage other people to do the same. And I realized that, wow, I might actually be onto something by accident because not just me, like my whole life changed completely. I got, become way more confident now compared to 3 years ago. My network expand. I've got different perspective in life. The relationship between me and my husband and my family, everyone was better. And,
Right.
I got all those benefits. And I realized that other people doing the same thing, getting very similar benefits as well. And my goal here, my journey, my purpose of my life really is to make this easier for other people. So instead of getting them to go on LinkedIn and invite people and get 90% people rejected on them, like I did before,
Yeah.
I built this 100lunches.com platform so that it's so much easier for other people to connect with each other for lunch. But then the problem is I have no background or ideas about anything about technology because I studied commerce,
That was
like
going to be
most
my question next.
like most Asians do, commerce degree. And then I spent my whole career 8 years in financial planning. Technology was something totally new for me, and I struggled when I first started. Like I have no clue what to do. I haven't even heard of like MVP. Like what's MVP? I don't know. What's the steps? What do I need to do? But then I think I'm really grateful that I've got so many new connections and they help me massively when overcoming all those challenges and helping me put me to the right track. So I don't know, learning in a complete brand new industry.
Yeah, the
was
learning lessons in that answer is great. You really found something that you found a way to help others. It wasn't just you, and you recognize that out there. Definitely a difficult part of entrepreneurship. But looking back here, Kaley, what is one of your greatest failures or lessons learned, and what did it teach you?
Biggest failure or lessons learned? So many throughout my journey because of um I wouldn't say that's a failure, but maybe failure to recognize who I really am. Because my biggest lesson throughout my whole lunch with strangers journey is not just about strangers. Like I now have almost 300 lunches with strangers now, even after I achieved 100, which is my original goal. I haven't stopped because I love having lunches and just talking to strangers and keep learning from them. But every time I meet someone new, they just ask me lots of questions and then just make me understand a lot more about who I am, who's Kaley Chu, and just understand more about myself. So I think the biggest lesson maybe is just to really fail to understand who I am before and way underestimated my potential, and I thought I could only achieve so much, but I was wrong. Every time I set a new goal, I smash it, and I set a bigger goal, and then now I've done lots of things that I never thought that I could. And I'm nothing special. Like I'm not smarter than anyone or
Yeah.
I'm not better than anyone. I'm just someone that decided to give it a shot and just to do a few things and see what happens. So
I love the ambition. You're a goal setter. What's one more goal that you're working on right now that we can be on the lookout for?
the 100lunches.com, which is something that I'm really passionate about. That's the platform that I'm looking to grow. But I've got lots of big goals. Another goal that's completely irrelevant to what I do, but I'm just passionate about, is just raise funds for Fred Hollows. They help lots of people in developing countries to restore their eyesight. One of my goals is to raise enough funds for them to provide, the eyesight surgery for 1 million people. And then, I don't know, so many.
I love the philanthropic ties there. But if you could choose to have a conversation here, Kaley, and learn from any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Melanie Perkins. I love her. Do you know Melanie from the Canva, the founder of Canva? I just feel like I'm so I really admire her and I can relate to her in many ways because she's a young women entrepreneur. She's from Philippines, I think that's her background, and then she's also in Australia. And because like she wasn't born rich or anything, but because of her hard work, because of her persistency and just keep going and keep trying, now she basically revolutionized the whole design industry. We used to do so complicated software and now we use Canva, and that's just so easy to use, and I just love what she do. And I don't know, I think she's just an inspiration for a lot of us.
Well, if you could choose a location for this meeting now, Kaley, where would it be?
Anywhere she wants, I don't care. Like, give me a day, a time, and a location, I'll fly there.
I love it. Well, now let's look into the future here. We're going to look 1 year and 5 years out. Where do you see yourself in all of your entrepreneurial endeavors in 1 year from today?
I love to see more people doing lunches with strangers because at the end of the day, that's really what I love to do, is seeing other people getting results, other people having a better life because of this accidental idea that I came up with.
Well said. Accidental idea. Yes, yes.
Yes. 5-10 years, I just want to grow this business, grow this technology startup because I found it really challenging, so much to learn, and at the same time I'm meeting a lot of amazing people throughout my journey, which I'm very, very happy.
Can we describe one more memorable lunch that you had with a stranger?
Absolutely. My 200th lunch with stranger, he is a very interesting one. His name is Shane Jacobson. You probably don't know him, but he's a very famous celebrity in Australia, like a movie star, and he's the judge in Australia's Got Talent. So if he walks on the street, most people will recognize him. So when I had lunch with him, I was expecting a lot of, I don't know, celebrity gossips or something. I thought that's going to be interesting, but somehow that lunch turned to a way that completely different to what I expected. I remember he asked me about my family, and I said, I've got a brother. He's 14 years younger than me. And he's like, okay, that's interesting. Why is the big age gap? And then I jokingly said, because I was too naughty at that time. My parents probably gave up on me and like to try again. Like, it's a joke that I say to people. But then he took it really seriously and he said, why would you say that, Kaley? Tell me more about your relationship between you and your parents and your brother and how and blah, 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 blah. And he digs really deep into, my family life, which I wasn't expected. And somehow I told him that I have never, ever said I love you to my mom. And then Shane, like he said to me, this is not okay, Kaley, because when we're making movies, one of the biggest regrets that people have in life, and we like to make people cry in the movies, is that you're unable to express your love before someone that you love pass away, and I never want that to happen to you. So I'll give you a challenge. Say I love you to your mom. I don't know. And then I was really hesitant. I was really scared. That was one of the biggest fear, I think. I don't know, biggest challenge that I've ever had. But I did. I said I love you to my mom on Mother's Day last year for the first time in my life, in the 30 years life, which
Wow.
is crazy. And that's just massively improved the relationship between me and my mom. So who would expect, lunch with strangers? And
Well, thank you for sharing that story. Definitely a memorable lunch. And I think it is now a perfect time for the Spotlight story. On each episode, I share an entrepreneurial journey to inspire our listeners, and I would love your take on it. As I have a rock star female entrepreneur on the show this week, I will introduce the story of another, an Ann Wojcicki. This article describes this entrepreneur as the go-to person when it comes to unraveling your genes. She is the former wife of Google co-founder Sergey Brin and is also the co-founder of the highly publicized website 24andMe. I think it was cool to learn how this company pivoted so many times. It started out as a way for the public to take control of their health, and now it reunites adopted children with their biological parents and gene profiles to even solve cold cases. several serious health issues, including different types of cancer and autoimmune disorders. They have a suspected genetic link, and in early 2018, this company received FDA clearance to sell cancer testing kits directly to the customer. This reason led Wojcicki to becoming one of the top female entrepreneurs in 2018. Kaley, what do you like best about this story in entrepreneurship?
I love it. I mean, I feel like it's the same as a lot of entrepreneurs that I've met in the past. Biggest challenges sometimes through to us became our biggest blessing, and we turn the blessings to help other people. So that's very similar to that story there, and I love it.
Yeah, a lot of ambition where I think even in your business, you can say you have to pivot sometimes, things change. And the fact of this case here, the business kind of did a 360 into a whole new area. And I have never heard of any companies like this. Have you?
No, never.
Yeah, so definitely unique. But Kaley, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know our listeners are going to see all the value in your episode. I love how you talked about a lot of adversity and how you battled through that, because I know that can help people in other adverse situations. I loved how you described those memorable lunches and that first lunch, because people are going to want to look into this brand that you were running. So I think it is also a great time for the last word. And I also do this on my other podcast series because I want the listeners to really have the opportunity to know the guests I bring on. Is there something that you would like to share that we did not touch on yet today?
No, I just want to tell everyone that one connection can change your life and you can change your destiny. So stay open to opportunities and meet more strangers, because you never know when's your next life-changing connection is going to be made. So
I'm a big believer in that as well. It only takes one in any situation. One person can really change your life. Would you now mind please taking the time to share your professional social media, the website, ways for our listeners to either request your services or follow your endeavors?
absolutely. So my name is Kaley Chu, Kaleychu, Kaley Chu, and then you can come and see everything I've got from my website, kaleychu.com. And I also have a starter pack, 100 lunches starter pack, that are available for everyone to download for absolutely free of charge. It includes a template on how to invite strangers out for lunch, some tips that I've got, some FAQs, and also step-by-step, what do you do before, during, and after lunch, so that you can make the most out of each lunch. So come and download the free starter pack, and I look forward to following your journey and see how lunch with strangers change your life as well.
Be sure to check out all that great content and head to her website, because that next meeting you have could be the one to change your life. And it is also social media time for the show, and we're on whichever platform you like to use. We're at That Entrepreneur Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and we're at Podcasts by Lanci on Twitter, so you have updates from this show and a mental health break. Of course, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci for all social media and YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. If you check out my books, DM me. I would love to hear from you. We have Mr. Lanci Talks Mental Health, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, and How to Transform Your Mindset When the Norm is Changed. All are on my website now. And as always, I will end the show with a quote that inspired me, and know it will for you too. This one is from today's Spotlight entrepreneur, Anne Wojcicki. She said, "When people have access to their information, they can mitigate risk." Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of That Entrepreneur Show.